Up, everybody? This is Pelicans Plus with Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter. I hope that I'm streaming on the correct place because we've got a couple different comments from our Twitch, from Boot Crew Media and Lala. So not sure what's going on there, but hopefully we're broadcasting to the right places. It looks as if we are. But anyway, this is Pelicans Plus with Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter. This episode is brought to you by Hornitos. Hornitos, the official tequila of Pelicans Plus and Boot Crew Media. Make sure you subscribe or follow depending on where you are listening. You leave that rate and review on Apple Podcasts because I know half of you are listening there right now that listen to it as a podcast. You take a moment and leave that rate and review. It'll help us out a lot. Also, this is our 95th episode. We just passed 20,000 listens, downloads overall, just on the podcast platform. That doesn't include all of the thousands of plays and views on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. So we really appreciate you doing that. It's huge for us. And because we're almost at 100 episodes and over 20,000 downloads for the podcast, we'll probably be doing a giveaway here soon. So pay attention to that. Also, make sure to tell a friend about the podcast. So Pelicans, they got their very first win of the season last night. Very excited about that. And it feels like it's been a long time coming, and in all reality, it's been like a week of the regular season. Obviously, the Pels are without Zion right now, and that hurts, but this is a big win for a lot of reasons. It really is. And you know, I tweeted that thing yesterday about how we told we told everybody about how this was working. The Pelicans fan base did, and people were telling me to chill and stuff like that. And the people telling me to chill are the ones who have consistently been negative. And so I'm just not responding to it. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth my time. And I'll respond to stuff that I feel like I need to respond to. But for right now, to me, this is a very big win. And I'll tell you why. There's several reasons. Obviously, first win of the season, that's a big deal. Willie's first win as a head coach, that's a big deal. And you saw the video. I put it out today. Pelicans put it out as well, of the team just absolutely mauling Willie when he came in, dousing him with water bottles. If you saw it at the end, Teaspoon got him too, which was awesome. I thought that was really funny. He was walking out of the locker room and she got him again. But it's just so awesome to see. We never saw that. Anything remotely close to that with Stan Van Gundy last year in terms of the relationship with his players. Nothing even remotely close. And it's just another indication that Willie Green is beloved by his players, by the organization, by the front office. This dude is legit in just about every way. And this is just the indication that the team is happy to have a good head coach that gives a damn about them. And, that isn't a dick, I think I'm in the right place here with the podcast. Give me one moment right now. I just received a text from my boss. Apologize for those of you who are watching right now, listening, trying to figure this out. But anyway, it looks like we're good. But anyway, to continue, let's see where we're at here. Also, back to it. They looked confident and competent for the first time all season. This team looked like they were ready to go from the jump. And here we are. Looks like we are switching brands here on accident. So let me fix this for us and we'll get right back to it. So this is what I'm talking about when I say we are in a little bit of a weird spot with getting things figured out, but we will get it figured out here right now. Looks like we got it. But anyway, so in regards to what's going on with the Pels, sorry about this, guys. Looks like we've got multiple people from BKM in the StreamYard, the site that we use. So here we go. Now we're back to normal. All right. So they look confident and competent for the first time all season from the get-go. They looked ready. They didn't play worried. They didn't turn the ball over near as much. Well, which is saying a lot considering 17 of them were turnovers, which is not good. And then also you look at the fact that, well, they didn't turn the ball over 30 times. It's that simple. 30 turnovers is bad. It's really bad. And it was still 17, which most games in the NBA, you lose with 17 turnovers. But they didn't. They scored the ball enough and turned the T-Wolves over enough that they were able to get back in it. I'm going to pull up the box score from yesterday's game to get a look at how many turnovers they forced. But, I mean, to add to that, the competence and confidence has to come from somewhere, right? So looks like they've only forced 11 turnovers, but they did pull out the win. The confidence has to come from somewhere. And to me, we go back to that first point. It's Willie Green. And it looks like we're switching brands again. I'm not sure what's going on here. We're trying to figure this out, but we will here momentarily. Looks like I've got Lala here on the stream. I think we're going to figure this out. Lala, what's up? Can you hear me? No? Okay. We're trying to get this figured out. Hopefully she helps us out. Maybe we'll have it. I'll just keep the Hornito stream or the graphic there. Again, apologize to those of you who are listening and watching. We're trying to figure this out. We have a lot of people doing streams right now, so my apologies. But not only did they look confident, they maintained their composure. And so, with that, they didn't let the crowd rattle them. They didn't let Ant going off rattle them. They sure as hell didn't let Patrick freaking Beverly rattle them. They sure as hell did not do that. That was the most confident they've looked all season, especially the young guys. Trey, he airballed a three, came back and splashed one like a couple minutes later. So I said it in those first three games. I thought Trey looked timid. I really did. And that's fine. Like rookie nerves, that's going to be a part of it. That's going to be a part of the NBA. That's going to be a part of your first few games in the league. And even with a guy like Trey, who's a little bit older and has had a really good preseason and a really, really good summer league, it was just a point where the nerves get to you when it's real. Like those games didn't really matter. These ones mattered. And Trey looked a little off, a little not like himself. And now we're starting to see him settle in and be a little bit more confident in himself. Also, so I mentioned that they didn't get rattled by Pat Beverly, which that whole situation was just hilarious. Did you see so obviously you saw it if you watched the game last night, and you probably saw it on social media today. Pat Beverly like getting all up in Jonas Valanciunas' grill, and like Jonas was at the free throw line, and then Pat Bev stood in front of him while he was waiting for the ball to shoot his free throws. And then when Jonas tried to push him off, Pat got pissed. Like, how does that make any logical sense? First of all, he's literally just trying to get in people's heads. It was stupid. It made zero sense. And to me, I think it was an indication. Well, I was watching the Timberwolves stream, actually, believe it or not, because I'm in Iowa, and that's the only way I was able to watch the game because of blackouts. And my subscription to my cable company through my mom it has Bally Sports. So that's how I was watching it, Bally Sports North. And these announcers were like, yeah, Pat Bev, the Timberwolves haven't had a guy like this in so long. Yeah, this guy's great. Well, I just think he's annoying. And other than Kyra Lewis, I don't think he rattled anybody on this team in these two games. And Kyra, he's just not used to that. He's not used to that. And as I bring up Kyra, we've got a comment from YouTube. Jose David Gomez says, are we going to prioritize Kyra Lewis progression over team progression? We need a reliable backup point guard. No. And I'll say no because Kyra played what, like 14 minutes last night? I got rid of the box score because ESPN always plays the freaking videos on the side. And it's annoying as hell. But I think he had played 14 minutes and had 3 turnovers and something like that. And in terms of having a reliable backup point guard, I mean, yeah, like it's really point guard by committee right now. And that's the way it's going to be probably for the remainder of the season. You got Brandon Ingram, Devontae, and Zion's going to be an initiator of a lot of possessions when he comes back. Not every possession by any means, but enough. And so it's not a concern of mine. I highly doubt that's going to be anything that the team continues to focus on. But anyway, back to Pat Bev. This broadcast, they were phrasing it as, you love to see that from Pat Bev. I mean, first of all, Jonas Valanciunas was not phased at all. If you look at it, he was literally just looking at him like, what the hell is wrong with you? If they were not on an NBA court, if they were in a back alley or whatever, Jonas would have beat the living hell out of Pat Bev. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Come on, get out of here with that. But by the way, Jonas Valanciunas made it incredibly clear as to why he was brought on this offseason in a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, the whole thing. Well, I posted this on Twitter and it got a little bit of engagement, but nothing crazy. The why sign someone before they played a game with you? Like, yeah, that does still kind of confuse me, but also given what Jonas has done over the last couple of years, especially with the Grizzlies, who he is, what he brings to the table, I'll say it was kind of dumb of me, but also I just feel that way in pretty much every circumstance. Either way, Jonas, a freaking steal of a contract. They signed a 2-year extension worth $14 million next year. He's making 14 this year, and then 15 2 years from now. Last night, he put up 22 points and rebounded the ball 23 times. He had more rebounds than he did points, and he scored 22 points. That's a big freaking deal. Speaking of deals, that's a crazy freaking deal for what he got on his contract, for what the Pelicans got from him on his contract. And he makes his damn free throws. Fine, Steven Adams was perfect from the line last night. We never saw that last year. It's not going to continue. That's a very small sample size. Jonas Valanciunas will make his free throws. Because why? Because he has touch and because he can do things outside of the paint. I just was absolutely floored with what we saw from Jonas Valanciunas last night. And not that I didn't see it coming, in that I didn't think he was good or anything like that. My thinking is that I knew he was going to be good. I just didn't know he was going to be this freaking good while Zion was gone and have 23 rebounds in one game. He played 39 minutes, which you're not going to see every night from Jonas. We were told in the post-game presser that Willie told Jonas that he was going to ride him all night. We're going to ride you all night, big fella. That was a way to say that, Willie. You just made everybody uncomfortable, but he was right. It's what he said, so he was honest, and we appreciated that for sure. Also, he just pissed off Cat. Cat was pissed the whole game, and he had some really bad calls. There were awful, awful calls last night. Most of them in the Pelicans' favor, not so much for the Timberwolves. But Cat was not happy. He got a tech at one point. He was reacting like he was 5, like jumping up and down, all pissed off. And it was awesome. Cat's a really good basketball player, but I don't know him personally. But I can tell you that Jimmy Butler was probably right when talking about how Cat does not really want to win and doesn't have the intensity and the wherewithal to continue to compete at a high level, especially when he's irritated. So I don't know if y'all saw that, but I can gather that last night too. And and Jackson was awesome last night in Jonas Valanciunas' absence. Like, he had that swat on McLaughlin, their backup point guard, And on top of that, he had a little hook. I think he had 4 or 5 points, but in those minutes, he was good last night. I really enjoyed watching Jackson in the time that Jonas was not on the floor. Also 4 rebounds, and he was plus 10 on the field for his plus minus. And Jonas wasn't the only one who was freaking awesome last night. Brandon Ingram was clutch in every single sense of the word. 27 points, 9 rebounds, 4 of 7 from 3. Had some awesome catch and shoot threes last night as well. And he's just clearly drastically better than he's ever been in terms of where he's at defensively. He just is in just about every sense. And it's effort. Effort is just through the roof compared to what we've seen the last 2 seasons from Brandon Ingram on the defensive side of the floor. And again, post-game media session, Willie said that BI has been stepping up defensively and he's asking to do more and continue forward, which is awesome. You love to see that from your leader, from your guy who scored 27 points and put up and grabbed down 9 rebounds. I had somebody ask why BI didn't guard Tobias Harris in the first game. And when you've got a plethora of wings that can defend pretty well, not a concern of mine. BI doesn't have to guard the opposing team's, best scoring wing, I guess. Because that's what Tobias Harris is for the Sixers. BI doesn't need to go out there and guard, even on other teams like LeBron. Just doesn't need to do it. He doesn't need to go out there and guard, Luka. You can leave that task to Najee Marshall, to Herb Jones, and maybe at one point in time to Trey Murphy, depending on the matchup. And you got Nah, who's a pretty good perimeter defender. You got Josh Hart, who's, that dog guy that you love to have on your team. BI doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to be that. He just has to be good enough and give enough effort on the defensive end of the floor to contribute and still be able to score 27 points and grab 9 rebounds. BI was just awesome last night. Just awesome. The quote that really blew up last night on Twitter is Willie said this about BI after the game. He said he's just scratching the surface of where he's going to be. He came in at the end and just closed the game for us. We need him to play like that. He's taken such a leadership role. And, he alluded to the fact that BI is not that vocal, but man, I was just shook at BI's shot making last night. From the mid-range, again, 4 of 7 from 3, which you love to see. And he was just calm, cool, and collected. I think somebody responded to that quote and said something about how BI went full Black Mamba mode last night or something like that. He made some tough shots, man. He made some tough shots. I loved every single bit that we saw from Jonas and from BI. And in effect, those 2 guys are the leaders of this team. And Devontae was awesome last night, too. He had 21 points, if I'm remembering correctly. Had those floaters. Yep, 21 points. One huge 3 at the end of the third quarter. And again, those big floaters. He just provides a completely new dynamic to the offense. And we've talked, and we're going to keep talking about it like this. It's going to be that much better when Zion's back, right? Like that's what we're all waiting for. That's what we're excited about. And for good reason. Zion's dominant, transcendent talent, 27 points a game, 60% shooting in last season. And it's true. Devontae will provide so much, especially when Zion's back, but he's providing a lot right now. I was a little, I wouldn't even say concerned, but just paying attention to the fact that he did not look comfortable in the preseason, but it's completely different now. He is clutch like BI was last night. He is confident, like I've said 42 times about the team in general tonight. He has this shot-making ability and this willingness to take the shots and makes them. He had that hezzy dribble on the right side of the lane last night. He had that scoop and under finish at the rim, which we were told he wasn't going to attack the rim. We were told he wasn't going to be good at it. And sure, he's turned the ball over down there a few times. He's small. That's going to happen. He can improve there, and I think he needs to. But that three at the end of the third was massive. He was just chucking it up. He nailed it. And that gave the Pels a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter when it was just down to 4 last night. And to reiterate about that, the thing that excites me the most about this Pelicans team after that win is that they stood their ground, they remained calm, and never relented the lead, and they won. Last year's team would have lost. Last year's team would have lost that third game of the season when they had 30 turnovers by 30, by 25. But instead, they lost by what, 7, 9 or something like that. And last night, they had 17 turnovers. They nearly lost the lead in the third quarter when Anthony, oh my gosh, first overall pick. Holy crap. What am I thinking? Anthony Edwards, goodness sake. Anthony Edwards was going absolutely nuts, and he is a star, man. He is an elite athlete. He can make shots. He threw that dunk down on TM3, which was a little demoralizing. But then also, Brandon Ingram came back and flushed it in his face. He killed him. Anthony Edwards is dead. RIP, man. That was nasty. And we've seen that in just about every game from BI. But anyway, holistically, they didn't get down in the dumps when the Timberwolves were making their run. They didn't lay down and die. They didn't say, we're going to lose this one because we lose games late. This identity of this team is different. And yes, you can come after me and say it's just one win. It's over the Timberwolves. Timberwolves have 3 pretty good players. Cat, who I've mentioned, is a star. D'Angelo Russell, who wasn't great last night, but when he's on is really freaking good. Anthony Edwards, who's a good basketball player, who I mentioned, he's a star already. He's going to continue to develop, and he's just awesome. And they have really good role players. Naz Reid has just eviscerated the Pelicans like a bunch of times, and Vanderbilt's good. I like McLaughlin, their backup point guard. They're a decent basketball team. Do I pick them to make the playoffs? Not necessarily. Do I think that they're better than the Pelicans? No, I don't. I think the Pelicans are far superior, especially when Zion comes back. But they're not a slouch, and it's early, so you know they're going to give their best effort. They were undefeated prior. Granted, it was 2-0, but this is not a light win. This is not a take the back seat win. And I'll list a bunch of other things that I saw last night, and then we'll get into a preview for Wednesday's game. But Garrett Temple wasn't awful. And I said it on Twitter again. This is the thing about Garrett Temple, is that the difference between him and Bled is the fact that he wants to be good and he's invested in this team. That was not so with Eric Bledsoe. Herb was good again, defended Ant well, and he didn't have to score a single point to have an impact. I think he finished with 0 points. Najee Marshall went back to being himself. He didn't dribble the heck out of the ball and try to make plays. Trey is getting his confidence back, like I mentioned. The Pels took better care of the basketball. Not great care of the basketball, but better care of the basketball. 20 points from the bench, which is pretty damn good. Like, considering those 3 previous games, pretty damn good. I'm happy with that. For now, that can't be that same way going forward. It's got to be 30-ish in my mind's eye. 87 points from the starters, and Herb didn't score a single point. And he doesn't really have to fill up the box score to really be impactful. He's great defensively. He knows basketball. And the Pels shot 33% from 3 and still won. So lots of good things to take away. I'm not dealing with the negativity. I'm just not. I'm an optimistic person. I like to calm the waters when people start to freak out. And right now, I'm optimistic. Things could take a turn for the worse. They could continue to get better. The Pels could go on a winning streak without Zion, and that'd be awesome. But you are not going to catch me being a negative Nelly, saying chill, like this is just one win. No, you're not going to see that. Optimism, baby. We're either neutral or optimists. We're not going negative. That's just not what we do here on Pelicans Plus. Plus is for positivity, motherfucker. Anyway, a bit of an update on Zion, actually, before we get into Wednesday's game. This is from Christian Clark, but it was also reported by Andrew Lopez, Will Guillory, all the guys that were at the practice today. I'm sure Ollie Cosell tweeted it out as well. But this is verbatim from Christian. Zion Williamson is doing a little bit of running on the court. Plan is for him to have another series of tests on his right foot later this week or early next week, Willie Green says, which is good news, I suppose. It could be worse. Could be bad, could be he broke his foot again. That's what it could be. But right now, it's not progressing to the degree that we want it to progress, but it is progressing. So with that, let's go to a preview for Wednesday's game. Haven't done this in a long time. I know we did it a lot last season, and I'm ready to get back to it. To start, they play the Atlanta Hawks at 6:30 on ESPN tomorrow or today if you're listening to this as a podcast. I am nervous. The Hawks haven't had any, great wins or anything like that. They beat the Pistons 122-104. They beat the Mavericks 113-87, and the Mavericks are not good right now. I don't know how good a shape Luka's in. I haven't, and that's not me saying he's in bad shape. That's me saying I just don't know. Because I haven't watched any of them. And I'm assuming that Jason Kidd has already ruined the team because Jason Kidd sucks. And then they lost to the Cavs 101-95 in Cleveland. This is in the Smoothie King Center. So show out, go to the game. It is a nationally televised game. You can go right after work. Go right down to the SKC and enjoy that one. And Finesse, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. He says this team just has to figure it out. And the thing is, honestly, I think they took a big step in figuring it out. And the fact that they've got the relational part of it right, and the fact that they are, they love Willie Green, and we saw what happened after the game last night with them dumping the water on him. They've got that figured out. They care about each other. They're friends. They want to win for each other. They want to win for Willie Green. And that is a massive piece that they never got last year because SVG was so freaking bad. And now they have that. So they've got a lot of things to figure out on court in terms of, defensive scheme and who they're going to rely on late. And it looks like it's BI and JV. So maybe not even that. But they've got a lot to figure out. So Ree, you're right, but there's a big piece that I think is taken care of. And you are right here. Another comment from Ree saying, but they can't be satisfied. You are exactly right. I agree with that. I'm right there with you. Got another question, but I'll address that momentarily. So JP Compton, I'll have you wait patiently. I'm going to address this pregame or this preview, and then I'll get to you. But anywho, take on the Hawks at 6:30 on Wednesday. This is, like I said, in the Smoothie King Center. The Hawks have 5 guys averaging double figures in points per game. Trey with 25, Cam Reddish with 18.7, John Collins with 14.7, DeAndre Hunter with 11.5, Bogdan Bogdanovic with 10. Clint Capella is averaging 11.7 rebounds per game. John Collins with 9.3, and Trey is also averaging 10 assists a game. I imagine that Clint Capella and JV will be the matchup of the night, but also you look at Brandon Ingram. I'm assuming he's going to be defended by DeAndre Hunter. That's going to be a really fun matchup to watch as well. Other than that, it'll probably be Solomon Hill, Cam Reddish defending him. I'm thinking that Gorgui Dang will hold his own, I suppose, against JV or Jackson if they're matching up in the second units. But the question is, who's defending Devontae and who's defending Nah? That will be the determination as to how the Pels score and if either of them are hot. Because Brandon Ingram's going to get his. JV's going to get his. Even though Clint Capella's really good defensively, JV will get his. He will. And BI will also get his because BI was really good against Jaden McDaniels yesterday. Jaden McDaniels is a pretty damn good defender. I will say that. I really enjoyed watching Jaden play defense yesterday, and I think he's very underrated. But holistically, the it's difficult to go off rankings right now. It's difficult to go off stats um in terms of sample size because we're literally in the fourth game of the season for both of these teams. And you kind of have to go off last year, how they did last year, but also look at what they're doing so far and if anything's changed in terms of scheme or personnel. The Hawks are largely the same, other than the fact that they've added DeAndre Hunter back after they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. So they're very deep. So in terms of getting guys in and running up and down the floor, they're going to do that. But defensively, they rank third in the NBA in points allowed with 97.3 so far, behind just Utah and Miami. But again, look at the teams they've played: the Pistons, the Mavericks, and the Cavs. Again, Mavericks are off to a slow start. When you have Luka Doncic on your team, you're going to be good. Like that's just it. But not quite off to the start that they could be if they were going for it. But JP, I'll answer your pertinent question to the preview, and then we'll bounce back to that initial question. JP Compton commenting and saying, with the Hawks, who do you put Herb on? And that's actually a really good question. With Cam Reddish averaging 18.7 points a game right now, I'm thinking it's him or maybe even John Collins. But when you think about defense and the point of attack for the Hawks, it's going to come from Trae Young. I don't see Herb guarding Trae Young, just because I think that's where you send NOLA and you just say, like, we'll help on the perimeter because he's going to create his own shot. He's going to create shots for others. But I'm intrigued to see what they do with Trae. Again, I'm thinking it's going to be NOLA and maybe like Najee Marshall. But the way I see it, Herb will probably defend a mixture of DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Bogdan Bogdanovic, John Collins. It just kind of depends on who's hot and who's going to the basket and all that. I could see it going a lot of different ways. Again, pertaining to the Hawks, BG2 says, I'm hoping for a breakout game for Trae. Me too, man. I thought Trae, again, looked way more confident yesterday against the Timberwolves, and I think he's going to continue to add to that confidence. I'm not sure, and if you would define what you mean by breakout game, I'd be all about that. I'm intrigued to see what you would say as I'm asking that question. But 4 threes, something like that would be awesome. I would count that as a breakout game from Trae, and make a few free throws or hit a midi or get to the rim and throw down a dunk, something like that. So he finishes with 15, 16 points. I'd be all about that. I'd count that as a breakout game. BG2, if you have any thoughts on that or what you would consider to be a breakout game from Trae, drop those in the comments there on YouTube. And since we're wrapping up here, we'll probably be done in the next 5 minutes. Those of you who are listening on YouTube, Facebook, drop that comment if you have any questions or thoughts about that first win for the Pelicans, about Willie Green, BI, JV, whatever. Drop that in the comments, and I'll talk about that. Again, did you see all the good players we picked up in the G League? I did not. I know that a lot of the guys from the Summer League roster, well, I'd have to look. I know that obviously the two-way guys will be a part of the roster. And some of those guys who were in training camp will be part of the roster too. Like to see that. And then Trae took a 3 from about the logo. He did do that, and he banged it home, dude. He nailed it. He did. It was awesome. And right before that, he airballed a 3 too. And then he was just like, nope, and then drilled it. That's another thing about Willie Green. And I said this on Twitter a little bit as well. If you don't follow me on Twitter, why not? It's at Elliot Clough right there. You see it right there on the side of the screen. But the thing about Willie that I love, that I've seen already, is that with the young guys, he's just saying, just go. Like don't stop shooting. Don't stop attacking. Keep going. We want you to continue to develop. We want you to continue to shoot, to play the way you play, even if it might not be going particularly well. I love that. He went right back to Kyra early yesterday after Pat Bev sort of rattled him. he let Trey continue to shoot after that air ball and after he hasn't been great so far this season. He said, I have confidence in you. Go be you. Go keep doing that. I love that about Willie. It's none of that, one turnover sub out kind of thing like we saw from SVG and Nickeil Alexander-Walker last year. Don't even get me started on that. But I love that about Willie Green. There's a lot of things I really, really like about Willie, and I love that about Willie Green. Dropping the knowledge on the G League squad. For those of you who haven't seen it, I will actually look at that right now. The Birmingham Squadron put it out yesterday, I think. I retweeted it. I didn't really look too in depth about it, but there are a few names that I recognize, and I'll read those off right now. Obviously, Jose Alvarado and Dalton Thomas will be a part of that team. Then you got Zylan Cheatham, Malcolm Hill, Jared Harper, and those are all the names that I know. If there's anybody on that list, that you particularly are intrigued by, let me know. Share these comments here. We might find another Najee in the G League. Our G League got a lot of guards and a lot of shooters. Question here. Oh, not looking like a question, but BG2 says, would have loved to see a huge screen on Pat Bev after he harassed Kyra last night. Dude, I said it earlier on the pod, but the thing with JV would have freaking murdered him if they were actually, beefing. And then Kyra showed so much improvement from game 1 to game 2 playing against Pat Bev. Yes, JP Compton. Completely agree. He looked much more composed, and he didn't play a ton of minutes. He still had some turnovers, but he wasn't awful. And so I'll go back to your question here, JP, and then as long as I don't have another question come through, we'll get out of here. But JP Compton, again, this is his first question. We're finally getting back to it. He said, will Josh and Zion coming back mess up the rotations? That is a really good question. It's not something that I've really thought about. Zion, and I think I said this on another podcast or a radio show recently, him coming back will obviously have an effect on this team. Like, you don't have a guy come back who is averaging 27 on 60% shooting, come back and not have it affect the rotation or the team in general in a lot of ways. That just doesn't happen. Right. Like I love Zion and I'm really excited to have him back, but it will affect things in a lot of ways and not just all positively. Like, it's just going to take some figuring out, because playing without Zion versus playing with Zion, two very different things. As far as Josh goes, I don't think so. I think that he is a role player, and, he's not. Role players, when they come and go, don't affect the rotations near as much as superstars. Like, not even freaking close. So that's where I'm at with that. And honestly, I think Josh is going to get traded by the trade deadline anyway. Josh, Sato, and I don't know that Garrett Temple will, because he is so invested in New Orleans. And he played well yesterday. So if he continues to play like that regularly, I like it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Any last remaining questions as I start to wrap here, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Talking about the squadron still, he says. The squadron play LiAngelo Ball on November 5th. So all y'all show out for that. And please, please show out for that. I think it'll be really fun. Y'all should go to that. I don't know if it's in Carolina, one of the Carolinas, or if it's in Alabama, but I think that'd be fun to watch for anyone and everyone. Anyway, folks, before you go, make sure you please subscribe or follow, depending on where you are listening to this show or podcast on YouTube, especially. Subscribe. Leave a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Like I said, those of you on podcasts, I know 50% of you listen on Apple Podcasts. Please take, take 2 minutes and leave a rate and review. We really appreciate it. Hornitos sponsors us. It's official tequila of Boot Crew Media and of Pelicans Plus. Trying to think. Like us on Facebook, man. We don't have much of a following. If you have a Facebook, you don't even have to engage with us. We do these videos and stuff like that, so you'll be able to make sure you see those. But like us on Facebook, please. It's Pelicans Plus. You can find us on Twitter, or excuse me, on YouTube as well at Pelicans Plus over there. Yeah, follow Boot Crew Media, all that good stuff. I think that's it. JP, you are asking about my thoughts on Hayes' play so far. I talked about it earlier. So once this is posted as a pod and once it, all official on YouTube, you can go back and check that out. I think it was like 10 minutes in, something like that. But anyway, folks, thanks so much for engaging with us. Thanks so much for commenting. If you missed the show, drop a comment anyway, drop a like. I make sure to respond to every single comment I can. And we appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all. This season's going to be fun. Doing a little bit different. We're not going to do so much after games because Chris Connor dominates with the spaces. So this will be more between games and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be back on Thursday. Either way, that'll do it for this episode of Pelicans Plus. Once again, I am Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter. And this was Pelicans Plus.